startrek.
Greetings, young Harrison.
Hello.
Shall we beam in our guests for tonight?
That would be a good idea, I think.
All right, beaming aboard, Lieutenant Commander Rob Daniels. Hello, Rob. How are you tonight?
Living long and being prosper.
We have Ensign Derling beaming aboard here in the red shirt. Nice. And finally, after a long absence, all the way from Mars, we have Commander Kevin Simister.
I upped my rank to captain.
Oh, my apologies.
That's okay.
And this is your first time from your new studio, I suppose.
Oh, yes.
Call it.
If you want to call it a studio, sure.
Now with lighting.
Now with lighting. I believe the only
shadow
one
puppets now.
I believe the only one you've never met before is Ensign Derling over here.
No, I mean, I've watched him so many times on the show. I feel like I know him. So,
Well, Tim,
maybe.
This is Kevin from the Canadian Grooves website.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
And he's just relocated to a new location that's not on Mars. And he's finally back. And it's good to see him.
Well, you were talking about Star Trek, so
You come to the right place, my friend. I got to tell you, I was just digging through my stuff and I found a lot of stuff with a lot of sentimental value. So I'm really excited to get started tonight. But before we do, as everybody knows, we always like to start with Ask Harrison. So we have actually two questions tonight. One of them is actually an Ask T-Bone, and then we have an Ask Harrison. And I couldn't decide which question to ask him tonight. So I'm going to let you guys choose. We can take a question from either Jeff Taylor, my parents, or the Canadian snow turtle.
Canadian snow turtle?
Is that a vote or?
Sure, that's a vote for me. That's weird enough to start with.
Okay, Canadian snow turtle has a question for Harrison.
Hey, Harrison. It's me, the Canadian turtle. And I have two questions for you. First of all, question number one. What is it with you and replacement lead singers? Blaze Bayley, Tony Martin. And two, what do you think about Gary Sharon in Van Halen? As you know, they played a pretty big concert down there in Australia. Let me know. Canadian turtle, out.
I don't know who that was.
Well, he missed
weird.
Ripper Owens.
Sorry, what's that?
He missed Ripper Owens, for starters.
True, but let's not get on the Canadian turtle's ass. It was a busy day at work that day. Anyway.
I don't think I've heard a single thing by Gary Sharon in Van Halen, and I'm not exactly inclined to change that.
I saw off screen Kevin kind of grimaced when the name Gary Sharon came up. All right.
Well, nothing against the guy. He just didn't work in Van Halen.
Yeah, and I'm forced to agree with you there. Okay, so the second question was actually for T-Bone, and he has come up with quite an answer. Please watch.
Have you ever seen the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis?
No, I haven't. And I don't think we're far north enough here.
That was my question, or that was my thought, was that you're not far enough north.
What I'd like to do is at some point in the future down the road, it would be really fun to ask T-Bone that question because he is a little bit more further north than I am.
Yeah, let's find out.
Hey, Mike Harrison, how's it going? So, you wanted to know if I've ever seen the Northern Lights. Well, what are the Northern Lights? To me, they are like large sheets of bright frozen green ice that rise up from the horizon without warning. And although they appear cold at first, upon closer examination, these cold lights dance like flames. 3 times in recent memory, and maybe more, but I'm just going off the top of my head here, I remember seeing the Northern Lights. This past summer, actually, at Plateau Lake, where we have been camping for the last 8 years, we saw them there for the first time, and they were really brilliant, rose quite high into the sky and were quite amazing. And I've including some pictures here in this video. About 10 years ago, we saw them at Clearwater Lake, about 2.5 hours west of Thunder Bay. Again, very similar to what we saw at Plateau Lake, but the most memorable experience I've had with the Northern Lights was probably 17, 18 years ago up at Abonga Lake, 3 hours north of Thunder Bay, close to Armstrong, Ontario, if you look that up on a map. We started to notice them as it approached midnight. This time they rose high into the sky all around us from each horizon. And at one point, I just laid down on the grass and watched as the lights rising from the southern horizon came ever so close to actually touching and meeting the lights rising from the northern horizon. Almost the entire sky was engulfed in the dancing flames of the aurora borealis, and it was amazing. So to answer your question, yes, I have seen Northern Lights, and they're pretty darn cool. Anyway, as always, good seeing you. Take care.
That was almost poetic.
I want to get this guy on the show live. That was awesome. Thank you so much, T-Bone. I know she'll really love your slideshow there. And I like also on his map how he put Armstrong, Ontario, 18 hours from Kitchener. There you go. Okay, so tonight we're doing Star Trek. I see that two of us dressed in uniform. Tim, do you want to give us a good look?
Oh, I spent a lot of time on this. I turned a work shirt of mine inside out, and I took a piece of paper and made myself a little Starfleet logo.
That's awesome.
And I also changed my username for tonight.
I see that. And you also got your haircut to regulation.
It was giving me a headache. I'll be quite honest. That big. Every time I'd move, it was like a delay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Like it doesn't get long. It gets big. Like.
Well, I know Rob will appreciate this, but I thought that you kind of looked like Captain Pike in season 1 of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to go around. Kevin, this is your first time. So just for the fun of it, why don't we start with you? Do you have anything cool Star Trek to show off that you'd like to start with?
What? So how does this work? Do I just show one thing or everything, or what do you want?
You know, I think that we should be able to get around maybe 3 times. So maybe split your stuff up a little bit and consider that. We just wing it here. We just wing it.
Okay. Well, I'll just show you one of my favorite toys, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know if it's really a toy, but this is my mom was big. I don't think she does this anymore, but she was big into giving Christmas ornaments.
Yes, I had a few.
Like there was the Hallmark store. I don't think it exists anymore, but she was big on going in there and pre-ordering things.
Yes.
Because they would disappear so fast. And my sister was the Star Wars geek, and I was a Star Trek geek. So she was
Same in our family. Exactly.
So this one year, she gave me this Christmas ornament. And I have never put it on the tree once because it is way too fun to play with. This is a Star Trek communicator. It's very small, as you can see.
Love
and
it.
it does have the little thing in the hang.
there it
But
is.
are you ready for it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's even better than I imagined.
Woo!
Now, and then there's 2 buttons on here. One button, it has like the crew, Spock, Scotty, I think Uhura has something on there, but the other button, it's just all Captain Kirk. Never mind about me, protect my ship. Yeah. And you can have a little like a conversation. It's all random, but
Captain, shall I beam down an armed party?
And what would Captain Kirk say?
Well, as you can see, we have another problem.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah. So there you go.
I'm so glad you have that because my Hallmark ornaments are all in my storage locker. And the very first one I got was, I think, 91. It was the shuttlecraft. And I remember if you push the button on it, Leonard Nimoy says, Shuttlecraft to Enterprise. Shuttlecraft to Enterprise. Happy holidays. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, if we would have done this a month ago, they would have all been out. But like this one it just never goes on the tree. It stays here on my desk, and I
That's so cool.
I support your
communicate with my
decision
shit.
there.
That is so cool.
That is cool. So is that it for this turn, you think? Or?
That's it for this
Okay.
round. I don't have very much, to be honest.
So because I threw a spanner in the works and had Kevin go first, we're going to go counterclockwise, which, as Harrison knows, this always screws me up. But we're going to do it counterclockwise.
Well, what it looked like when you were making your hand movements was the movement for clockwise.
That's because you're in Australia, Harrison. It goes the other way.
It's the mirror universe.
Yeah.
So anyway, this means that we're going all the way to planet Vulcan with Ensign Durling in the red shirt.
Oh, okay, all right. I should have put a couple of clothespins. So we're splitting these in threes.
Well, I figure we should be able to get around at least 3 times.
Okay, because I've literally got 6 things. They all kind of okay. I did a whole episode on this, but it's an old episode and nobody watched it, so it's like I'm doing it for the first time. Discogs. It all started with Discogs. Discogs is a dangerous, dangerous rabbit hole, as most of us know. And I don't know what I saw first, but I started looking around at different things, and I noticed a weird trend, and I ordered a bunch of stuff, and it's weird. So, yeah, okay, I'll split these up. I got 6 things. I'll split them into 3 piles. So, as you guys know, most of the time, movie franchises, they're always by the same studio, the same, so it's Paramount or, okay. And that's how it is with the Star Trek films. But okay. First thing.
Let's zoom in there.
This is the soundtrack to the extended, let's show off the Enterprise because we have a big budget version of it now. Star Trek: The Motion Picture. This is the soundtrack, 1979. This is a Canadian cassette on Columbia CBS. It's one of the old... The black case with the printing. Oh, wow. One of the old beige tapes. This one's practically yellow. So kind of a cool cover. And so that's the first soundtrack. That's what that looks like.
That's sweet.
Second one.
Yeah,
okay,
it is.
we'll cover this up a little bit. Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. Now, why am I covering up the bottom of it?
Because
it's on Atlantic.
Atlantic, yeah. That's where it started.
Now, I'm kicking myself because about, 5 years ago now, I was at a used record store and they had this on vinyl, and I should have bought it and framed it and put it up. Why I didn't? Oh, I don't know. Sometimes you have an attack of stupid, Yeah, this is a U.S. cassette of the Wrath of Khan soundtrack, and this one, still Paramount Pictures, but it's on Atlantic Records. Maybe you can kind of see where this is going. So anyway, those are the first 2, and I don't know why I just saluted there.
Well, I guess you're a good ensign. I hope you survive the episode.
I was going to say I'm also very, very expendable.
Oh my God! Now, Rob, would you agree with me? I don't know if this is controversial, but Wrath of Khan is hands down my favorite of the Star Trek soundtrack.
I would agree with you.
Okay,
but well, I'll explain it when it becomes my turn.
And it is.
Oh, there we go. All right, I have to salute, and I will salute Tim's cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned the fact. Well, I'll start with some vinyl. These were given to me as gifts for my 1000th program of Visions in Sound. Yes, we'll get food in just a moment. So these are. I can't call them kind of like read along stories, but because they don't have the original voices on them. These are actually brand new stories that just happen to have has nothing to do with the motion picture. It just happens to have that picture on it. I've only actually opened one, and the voices are close, but not quite. So those are the start. Now, moving on. Here is Star Trek: The Motion Picture on vinyl,
Right on.
as you mentioned.
That's beautiful on vinyl. Look at the color.
Also available on cassette.
Yes.
And probably 8-track.
Guess what? I there's a guy on Instagram, real quick, calls himself 8-track guy. He gets them autographed. He got his Star Trek The Motion Picture 8-track autographed by no less than Nichelle Nichols.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
amazing.
So moving on just very quickly. You had lamented that you didn't have Star Trek 2 on vinyl.
Yeah, I should have bought that.
On the Atlantic label. And
Yeah.
there it is.
Now, what's
that
the
it says,
significance of the Atlantic label? Like,
Well, just the fact that we're 2 movies in, and it's in the same series, it's the same studio, and they're on different record labels. I just found that strange.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually it's a set deal, or I don't know how they worked it out, but
Well, I'm not sure if Star Trek, when the first motion picture came out, if they actually planned on it being a series, right?
I don't think they did, Kevin. I think
But-
they were hoping for one good one, you know?
Right. But I think that they thought it was one and done, and
Yeah.
it might come back to television. They weren't expecting it to. So maybe that was the deal that they had with the record label. I don't know. Just my guess.
I agree, and I know Rob would know this, but they really hemmed and hawed between doing a movie, TV series.
Yeah, there was Star
Yeah.
Trek Phase 2
Phase
in the
2.
70s
Yeah.
that was supposed to happen, and then I think Star Wars took off, and it just evolved into a movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way, I am actually doing a little side project this year. I'm actually going out and actively looking for every. So I have the vinyl right now. I'd love to get an 8-track, and I'd love to get a cassette of each one of the various soundtracks. We'll see on that one.
I only know of the motion picture existing on 8-track. It's possible that the Wrath of Khan one does. I don't know. That's one thing I've never looked on Discogs for. But I've also seen one. It's on the CBS label, and I want to say it came out in '76, and it's something like. My mind is scarred from too much school, but it's got something. It's like the story of Star Trek, or Gene Roddenberry tells the story of Star Trek, or might have nothing to do with Roddenberry. I don't know, but there is another album that came out before the movie soundtracks. It's on CBS, and I have seen that one on 8-track.
That rings a bell. Yeah. Cool.
All right. This is an unusual one because I bought it on vinyl first. This is Star Trek: The Next Generation Encounter at Farpoint. And this is the last of the Star Trek I ever got on vinyl. And it's on GNP Crescendo, which actually did get the Star Trek license, and they in fact released Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3 on their own label. So GNP Crescendo did have Star Trek 2 and 3. Sony kept Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and I think Star Trek 4 and 5 were released on Sony as well. Though they have been later, and I'll get to this. But I want to show this off as well, just as.
I've seen this once.
Yeah, this is the entire soundtrack music library from Star Trek: The Original Series. This was graciously sent to me by the wonderful people at La La Land Records.
Oh wow!
Completely unsolicited. I did an entire show on the 15-disc set here, and it's full of information. It has, like I said, every piece of music from every episode, and it's fantastic. So I can't wait till I get to it in my soundtrack listening project.
Yeah.
Then
I want that.
This is the 3-disc Star Trek the Motion Picture. This has been remastered, and it is it sounds lovely. It sounds so crisp, so clear. There are extra cuts on here. There is a song called what is it called? Star Beyond Time by what's his name? Oh, I can't believe I lost it. It's based on the Ilea theme. David Cassidy, I think, is the guy.
Oh, wow.
It was only ever played in Japan, in movie theaters in Japan. I'd love to get a hold of the 45 of that, but it is only unfortunately available in Japan.
That's cool. I shared with the group on our messenger chat. It's called Inside Star Trek. I shared a link to the 8-track.
Yes, I did see that.
It's something you can put on your radar.
That rings a bell.
And recently, well, I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years, or maybe a year. This is Wrath of Khan on CD, also from La La Land Records. Again, they remastered it. It sounds gorgeous. And I won't go through the entire history of soundtracks, but I will show that since it is the 30th anniversary of Deep Space Nine, I do have a collection of Deep Space Nine music on CD. This is just one of like 3 different collections I have of the music from the series. It sounds gorgeous. But I also have Voyager. I also have Deep Space Nine, as well as Enterprise.
That's sweet.
Mm-hmm. And most recently, I did an interview with Nami Melamand. She did the music for the Strange New Worlds and Prodigy series. She was gracious enough to send me some MP3s of her music. It is gorgeous. I hope they release. They've released Prodigy, but they have not released Strange New Worlds yet. So I'm hoping they'll release Strange New Worlds very soon. So there's my music coverage. I could do a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
Because I have a whole bunch more, but I won't take up a lot of time here.
I would like the 2, specifically the 3-disc motion picture set and the Wrath of Khan reissue. Those are the 2 I'd like to upgrade.
Unfortunately, the 3-disc motion picture is out of print. The thing is they released, I think they released a limited edition of 10,000, and they sold out so quickly. This was a fortunate find at the record store of all places.
No.
And I paid for it.
Kevin knows of which record store we speak.
I paid for it, but I rationalized it in the fact that had I got one from the States, I would have been paying shipping. I would have been paying exchange. So by the time I got it in Canada, I would have paid probably very close to what I paid for it at the record store.
The record store. Yes. That's cool, Rob.
Yeah.
I want all of it. Right, Harrison? I know you don't have a lot.
No, I don't have too much to contribute. In fact, the first part of my show and tell will just be tell, because it's not here. But my grandmother does have a Mega Bloks of the Enterprise from many years ago. Yeah. Funnily enough, actually, in my earlier years, I actually thought the Enterprise flew with the disc at the back.
Really?
Yeah, that just seemed like... Yeah, it seemed weird to think that the disc was at the front.
Did you have the up-down orientation correct in your mind?
As in... Like, yeah, I didn't have it upside down.
Disc was on... You had it upside down as well.
So no, I had disc at the top, but at the back.
Right, then, so basically Rob would be flying it.
Now it looks like a bird of prey.
I wish I had my old Star Trek model kits. I had the bird of prey. I had a three set. Came with the Romulan Warbird, the big green one from TNG, the bird of prey with movable wings, and a Ferengi Marauder. And that was a lot of fun to build.
For what it's worth, I used to think that Boba Fett's ship...
I know, yes.
I thought it was weird the way, like, it looked like he was sideways or something. I don't know.
I still swoosh it funny. You know, it still doesn't swoosh right in my mind.
Like, to me, it should be like a hang glider, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, Boba Fett's ship isn't really one that you'd swoosh. He wouldn't really swoosh anywhere. He'd just calmly and slowly move to where he...
Yeah. Is that it for you, Harrison?
Yep.
Okay, so I have a ton of stuff, and I'm going to start with sentimental. Just as I was preparing for the show, I found this Star Trek birthday card.
Oh, cool.
And it's from my sister, and on the inside it says, have a fascinating birthday. But she wrote, I hope Spock doesn't say, pain, pain, because that wouldn't be good. And that, of course, is a reference to, I think it was called The Devil in the Dark, the episode with the Horta, and Spock mind melts with the creature, and he's like, pain, terrible pain. And she always thought that was a great scene. So, these are handmade by my lovely wife. She made me some Star Trek mittens, and the insignia pin, or the insignia patch, came off the ones. We have to get it put back on. But imagine yourself out in the cold, and all you want to do is live long and prosper. So you have to put on your Star Trek mittens. And there's one regular mitten and then one with the Vulcan salute. And then she's also got these little buttons on there as well.
Oh, she sewed it that way?
Yeah, these are knitted. These are knitted.
Cool.
They're not,
I
don't think they're
knitted
crochet.
is what I meant to say. Yeah.
We
put them together.
Right. They could be crochet. They're knitted. I can hear they're knitted. And then here's something I made. I think this is about 1995. Oh, I was just going to ask Rob a question.
Yeah, I'm close by.
Rob,
what
year did DS9 debut?
DS9 was 93.
Okay.
It's celebrating 30 years this year.
I think I made this around 1995. But speaking of Christmas ornaments, this is Lieutenant Bear. And I did do him in, that is definitely a DS9 uniform. I'm pretty sure. And I did them both front and back. And I'm going to give myself a pat in the back here. I think I did a pretty decent job here. You can even see his rank pin on his collar there. I don't know what 2 dots is anymore, though.
Lieutenant.
Okay, Lieutenant Bear.
It doesn't look homemade, Mike. It looks good.
Thank you. My mom used to kind of run a craft business in the basement. She taught ceramics and whatnot. She always had a ton of paint. So one day I just grabbed one of these wooden Christmas ornaments that she had, and she painted them up and made them for sale. I just grabbed one and painted Lieutenant Bear. Yeah. And I think that's all. No, one more thing. I'll show one more thing off in this turn because it's related to what Rob had. I have a bunch of these as well. Never played. This is an original story here. Passage to Moav. And as Rob said, it's got the motion picture era guys on there. And then on the back, I have no idea what we're looking at here. I have no idea at all what we're looking at there. Motion picture read-along book. As Rob said, these were always dubbed with other actors. And if memory serves, we had a bunch of these for Star Wars too. And I could swear to God, the guy who did the voice for Darth Vader in the Star Wars read-along stories, swear to God it was the same guy who did Papa Smurf on the Smurfs.
Oh, Don Messick. Not Don. Yes. No. Yes, Don Messick.
If that's his name, I wouldn't know. But my sister and I used to listen to these. Like, I say this all the time. We didn't have VHS back in those days, so we had to listen to the records. And a lot of the time, all we had was 45s. And
we were so dumb, we didn't even know when to turn the page. They had to tell us. And
they had to tell us. And it was when R2-D2 beeps, you turn the page.
Yeah. I had a bunch of those too. I know I had Return of the Jedi. I had Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Gremlins. Yeah. I think they came in sets of 3 or something like that. So
that could be. Rob, I was just saying, I don't know if you overheard, but on those old Star Wars read-along books, I could swear the guy who did Vader's voice was actually the guy who did Papa Smurf.
Very possible.
Because that's what my sister and I used to do. We used to sit there and read it, and then when Vader's lines would come on, we'd go, "Oh, Papa Smurf." Over to Kevin, Captain Kevin.
Okay, I got. I'll do a couple things here. I actually had my buddy Joe give me this a couple of years ago, and this was like a Star Trek 30 years.
30.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of wild. Look at this. It was only $10 back then.
Yeah. Was that released by TV Guide?
I thought it was Time Life, but you know what? It might be TV Guide.
Because I know there were a couple of books that were released for the 30th anniversary, and that one of them was from TV Guide.
I don't have them anymore. At least I can't find them, but I used to have a few of those old TV guides, like the one where, it was like sexy Patrick Stewart on the cover.
It doesn't say. It just says Paramount.
Okay.
I don't know if they actually released books, but maybe they did. Anyways, this features all the Star Trek when Star Trek was good. Well,
yeah,
most of all the Star Trek when Star Trek was good.
Which one did you cover up, Voyager?
Don't worry about it.
No, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
But what I liked about these magazines, I had a few of them back in the day. I had one for Seinfeld. I think I still have the Seinfeld one. But they would break down every episode. They do like a little write-up on every episode. So because this, I think Voyager was only on the air for a few seasons. They have a few seasons of Voyager, but they got all of the original series, TNG, and Deep Space Nine in here. And it's just fun, like after you watch an episode, to take this out and find out what what kind of inside story was about any old random episode.
Yeah.
So, and there's let's see, they got like all the old collectibles in here.
I wanted a 3D chess set so bad.
Oh yeah.
And they would always have, what was it? Who put out those high-end Enterprise, not models, but it's like a die-cast Enterprise. Wasn't the Smithsonian? It was like
I don't remember. I remember the Erdl ones were the cheap plastic ones.
Yes.
And I remember them because that's what I had. I
had a bunch of the Micro Machine Star Trek ships.
Okay.
I had a bunch of those.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but aren't all physical chess sets 3D?
No, that we're talking about. It had 3 independent levels, and then it had like 2 battle levels that you could move around the board. These actual levels moved around the board. They were like floating pieces.
Chess now, is it anymore?
I agree, but it goes back to the first episode, the pilot. Well, not the pilot, I suppose. It would be the second pilot, where Kirk and Spock are playing chess, and it establishes Spock's character as having no emotion because Kirk beats him, and he says, "Sure you don't know what irritation is, Spock?" And they do this whole thing where Spock's like, "Oh, one of your Earth emotions," But it revolved around this scene where Kirk beats him at 3D chess. I hope I have that right. That was on the pilot. Yeah, okay.
Sounds right.
Yep. I think the one where they go, what is it?
The Gary Mitchell pilot.
Yeah, that's the second one where they didn't have bones. But they aired them out of
No Man's Gone before.
That's it.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, I guess so. We're going over to Tim?
Well, I got one more thing.
We got one more. Okay.
Just one more thing. This is I tried to find some different stuff too, because I figured you guys would all be showing action figures and whatnot, but I haven't seen any yet. So
we'll get there.
Okay. So this is and I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but this is the old Mind Meld here.
I have not heard of this.
So this is an interview. This is actually it's not really. I mean, it's a movie. It's a documentary, but it's just really Shatner and Leonard Nimoy sitting and talking for about an hour and 15 minutes. This came out in the early 2000s. Today, this would be just like a podcast. But back in the day, they made a whole movie.
That does kind of ring a bell.
So this is infamous for one thing. And it's infamous for many things, but the one thing it's most infamous for is that apparently at some point during this conversation, there is an audible fart somewhere on here. Unfortunately for the DVD release, it was removed. But if you could find the original VHS or something, or the first print or something, apparently it's out there. I haven't heard it myself. I examined this DVD as much as I could to try to hear it, but it's interesting, like how good like two friends these guys actually were. I don't know how much of it is for the camera, but they seem to really like each other. You get it's just a nice little insight on the entire show and stuff like that. Shatner, like you hear a lot. There's a lot of animosity amongst the actors and stuff like that. And it's funny because Shatner really comes out and he says, like, basically, look, it was me, it was Leonard, and it was DeForest Kelley. That was the show. And they were the ones that would work throughout the entire week because they were in every scene, right? And the other guys would come in for a couple days a week, and that's what they were to him. And Nimoy was like, he tries to be like, I'm friendly with them and stuff like that. I don't want to hang out with them, but I'm friendly with them. And Shatner was just like, no, they're beneath me, pretty much. It's a fun watch. And Shatner's totally upset. It's done at Leonard Nimoy's house. Shatner's totally obsessed with everything that Leonard Nimoy has. Like, he's just constantly going on about how great and big his house is and all the stuff that he has. He's very jealous of Nimoy because Nimoy became the face of Star Trek for a very long time just because of that appearance, and it's recognizable. And Shatner always felt like he should be the guy, So this is a fun movie to geek out on. So if you find it out there, try to find the VHS with the fart. Let me know if the fart's in there. But...
Try to look for the runtime. Look for the one that's like 3 seconds longer than all the rest.
Yeah,
that's a long fart, Tim. That's a long fart.
It's if it's, I'm not sure who did it, but if it was Shatner, I could imagine a good 3-second blast from him. But
when I write up this post tomorrow, we're definitely talking about the part. I just want to really quickly go. I think we're going to go a little long tonight, but I want to go on a quick tangent. Rob, you remember that movie, The Captains, that William Shatner directed?
Yes.
And he interviewed all the captains. And I just remember something about Avery Brooks, which was that he just seemed to not really answer questions. He just seemed to play the piano. And like Shatner would say, so what was it like playing Captain Sisko? And he'd be like tinkling on the piano going like, yeah, it's like jazz.
Avery's in his own world.
He
is in his own world.
I just watched that Deep Space Nine documentary last night. That's the
what
one
we left behind.
All right. Well, I don't need to show that off now.
It's amazing. I wish every show on the planet got a documentary like that, because that thing, it's not only do you get interviews with everybody except for Avery Brooks, although you get his input when Avery Brooks said
his interview just would have been like, oh yeah.
Well, they all say he's like a jazz musician, right? Yeah. It's like talking to a jazz musician. But what an amazing documentary with all the crew. Yep. The writers sit in a room and write the rest of the series. Like, it's everything you would ever want as a fan. It was incredible.
100%. Well, thanks for scratching that off the list of things.
Okay, no problem.
All right, Lieutenant Durling. Or ensign. Sorry, you're not promoted. You're still an ensign.
A promotion?
No, you're still an ensign.
Okay. All right. So continuing with the soundtracks throughout the 80s. So Star Trek: The Motion Picture was on Columbia, CBS. Wrath of Khan was on Atlantic. Now we come up to Star Trek 3, Search for Spock. This is on Capitol.
Oh.
This is a U.S. cassette. So anybody that bought cassettes in the U.S., for, I don't know. Now I'm just drawing a big blank, but this is what Capitol cassettes looked like in the mid-'80s. I've seen Helix cassettes that look like this. Incidentally, this was the first Star Trek movie I saw in the theater.
Same.
And real quick, my history with Star Trek, I don't know when. I know I saw Wrath of Khan, one of the first movies I remember renting when you could rent VCRs. And then right around that time, one of the networks started rerunning the original series, and it was like 8:00 it was on, and then TJ Hooker was on at 9. And I remember thinking, why does Shatner look so much older on TJ Hooker? So anyway.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. There's a funny scene in this movie where William Shatner's kind of walking down the street and he's recognized, and not as Captain Kirk, but as TJ Hooker. And a bunch of guys are like, Hooker! And he's like, yeah, you know. Anyway, thanks for scratching that off my list.
Yeah. Okay, so Star Trek 3, that was on Capitol. So we were 3 record labels now. Let's add a 4th.
Oh, you're joking.
Yep,
It's on
MCA.
MCA. So you can see why I was intrigued enough. And I also thought at some point I might get some sort of special display case to put all of these in. But as we know, MCA had a lot of soundtracks in the 80s, and this was just one of them. So this is a U.S.
I
copy.
do not like the way they matted the front cover of that cassette, though, with the offset.
No, it's exaggerated. And they also this is another one that does this stupid thing where it's upside down. So so yeah, so far we've had 4 movies and 4 different.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that is the artwork for that for Star Trek 4. Yeah, I saw a book that was like that too today. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It's weird.
The orange looks really weird. Like, it looks like it shouldn't be there.
That's what I assumed when I saw the cassette. Yuck.
Everyone remember where we parked.
Yes.
Nuclear vessels.
You know, there's one line in there. There's one line in there that is totally not politically correct now, and it's hard to believe it's in a Star Trek, and I won't repeat it because we'll get canceled. But it's regarding Chekhov when he's in the hospital not in the hospital, he's not there yet, when he's getting interrogated by the American agents, and they refer to him as an R word.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Lieutenant Commander Daniels.
All right.
Report for duty.
Now, just one thing that I do want to throw out here, and this is... I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. It's called Prelude to Axanar, and it was a kind of a crowd-funded separate movie that was done for the Kirk just before the Kirk era. It stars some really big names. They tried to make a full movie, and Paramount CBS shut them down. There was a whole lawsuit. It hopefully will finally come out sometime this year, but it keeps being delayed and that sort of thing. In any case, that was sent to me by the composer Alexander Bornstein, and it's some really good music. And it does. I would put it definitely up against any of the soundtracks I have, with a couple of exceptions.
Wow.
So where do I go?
That's hefty for an independent production.
Yeah. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. Prelude to Axanar. It's a good 21 minutes. You will not be disappointed.
That's the one I find it funny that the movie is streamed on YouTube, but the soundtrack gets a physical CD copy.
Well, this was special. These were actually only supposed to go to people who actually supported the Prelude to Axanar. This was sent to me very special, so I put this in a very special place.
And that's the one where the storyline is regarding Garth of Izar. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It is. It is.
Lord Garth.
Yeah. It has one of not Dirk Benedict. The other guy from Battlestar Galactica. Richard Hatch.
Yes.
It has one of his last performances. He actually plays a Klingon in Prelude to Axanar. It's a really good, like I said, watch it. 21 minutes, you will not be disappointed.
And I can't remember her name, but Kate something from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, she's also Kate Vernon, I believe.
Vernon, yes, Kate Vernon.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go back here a little bit. I had a set. They released a set of the 3. You had a phaser, you had a communicator, and you had a tricorder, and you put it on little utility belts. And this is the only thing that survived. This is the tricorder from that set. It used to have my name on the top, doesn't anymore. But it's
looks like one of Tim's 8 tracks.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it has that kind of. It's solid. It's been with me for probably 35 years.
Wow.
Maybe even longer. But yeah, that's the first. I wish I still had the communicator and the phaser, because the phaser used to shoot those little discs.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I have one of the guns that they used to tout as a Star Trek gun, and I always wondered why it never looked like the phaser, but it's because they used to slap Star Trek name on just about everything.
Space helmets.
The toys that made us did a great episode on.
Yes, they did.
Why Star Trek toys never caught on, because they were just not handled correctly, except for the Mego figures.
Yeah.
Right.
That seems to be the consensus.
There's mine back there. I'm not going to bother showing those tonight because I showed them off back in the LeBrain train days.
So yeah,
I have other stuff.
When I had the disposable income and the means to get catalogs, I ended up getting a whole bunch of different prop kind of things.
I remember those.
So this is a prop of a next gen, what they call the snakehead phaser. It's non-functioning. It's just a solid.
Oh, okay.
It's just a solid thing, but I thought it was really cool. I wanted one, and it looks really good. This is not officially licensed. This was just I contacted a prop maker, and they ended up sending me this.
Wow.
So, all right, moving on. This, I'm not sure who released this, but this is a Klingon disruptor.
Yes, it is.
And the thing I like about it is that it makes noise. Now, the big red thing on the front is, you put it up to your nose and it Rudolph, but it's a really cool. I wish I still had it, but I don't have it anymore. Klingon battle cruiser that had similar kind of sound to it as well. I think these were released by Galoob or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The company name. I'm looking for a company name on here. I don't see one. Anyway,
I guess the company that made the A-Team figures.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. This is something that I kind of grabbed a hold of as soon as I saw it.
Ooh, next gen tricorder.
It is a next gen tricorder, but it is again from that Galoob company, and it makes the noise.
Sweet.
It makes other noises as well, but of course it's not going to do it now.
No.
Because
it's 30 years old at least, right?
Yeah. So this is another thing, and you can turn off the lights and flip it closed. All right. So
that is cool.
Two other things before I move on. This is courtesy of Bob Pierston.
Ooh.
He had a collection of a couple of he wanted to become a screenwriter, and so he ended up getting a whole bunch of scripts. And I went over one day, and he said, "Do you want this?"
Whoa.
And I go, "Yeah." This is the script to one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
It's called The Visitor
with Tony Todd.
I always get emotional when especially near the end.
Yep.
It is such a good, well-written story. It has Tony Todd, who is a kind of like a mainstay in Star Trek. He's played so many characters, but in this case, he plays an older Jake Sisko.
Yeah.
It's such a good episode of the series. And when he said, I'm going to be throwing these out, I said, no. I want this one. In particular. So
that's in my top two. The other one being the one where Sisko is the science fiction writer in the 60s,
yes.
Or 50s even.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the episode name, but I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, those two are top notch.
Right. Now this here, I had a whole bunch of Star Trek books over the years. I still have a bunch, but they are off in an unattainable box right now. I would have brought out a whole bunch more, but we would be here all night.
Mine are all in storage anyway.
All right, so this here, again, wanting to learn to become a screenwriter. This was given to me by a friend of mine. And these are scripts from 2 episodes of the Voyager series, and some pretty good stuff in here. It gives you the whole breakdown of a script. It gives you little notes between pictures and such. It's a really neat book. It's the only script book I've ever seen of Voyager. I think they had like a Deep Space Nine, and they had a Next Gen series, but this is the only one I ever saw of Voyager, and this was given to me as a gift.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, this is cool.
Those are not things you see every day.
No, I have a whole bunch of other books. I have that 30th anniversary book that Kevin showed off. I have I used to have. Unfortunately, I got rid of most of them. Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise. A bunch of other of the technical manuals. I believe. I hope I did. I hope I kept my original technical manual from the original series, because it had some really cool drawings in it. Like I said, it's in that lockbox over there, and unfortunately, it would take a lot of effort to get the stuff out of there. But I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, this is one of I'm particularly happy that I was able to save this from the dustbin.
It doesn't say whose script that was. Say sometimes it'll have which actor or
ooh, that'd be neat.
Which production? It may be a production assistant or.
It's got. Let's see. It's got the. Let's see. It's got locations. Let's see. Oh, it actually has a pronunciation guide.
Oh, that's cool.
Of the various things. Let's see what else is.
That's neat.
Yeah, it has the interiors. Does it have who's on that day? Who's on the particular show? Actually, well, it says it gives you a whole bunch of. The final draft was July 31st, 1995. Gives you who it was written and directed by, but doesn't list the actors, as far as I know. I will keep looking, but I don't think it does.
There's no markings in it or anything.
No. This is a. I believe that this is just a kind of a script copy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I would love to get this signed, but I just haven't had the opportunity. So, but yeah, this in particular is one of my favorite little Star Trek things that I have. And sometimes I'll watch the episode and I'll just follow along.
That's cool.
And it's really cool. It's really cool to have all of that. Anyway, so yeah, that's my second portion of the evening.
Okay, Mr. Cop or Commander Cop, I guess we'll go with that.
Does that mean Kevin outranks me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh heck yeah. He's older than you too, so
I mean he probably does in real life too. So
I don't know about that.
Well, what do you got for us?
If
anything.
Yes, I do have one thing, but first I'm just going to point out, Mike, the Lego art for this show, the one that's behind us.
Yes.
If you remember, a little bit earlier, you go away, Fly. You were talking about Tim's haircut and said, no haircut. I'd already done the artwork.
Right.
If you remember that the first version of this artwork had hair that resembles
what he's got now. That's true. So we do have an alternate Tim head.
Oh, it's a variant. Oh,
we can do you with or without hair.
It's funny because I was looking at the theme and the way that you had my hair, and it looked like Lego version of Beorn from The Hobbit. But it's very cool. It's very cool.
Trust me when I say it.
Have that book Monsters of Star Trek?
Yes,
because I used to like that when I was a kid. I thought that was a cool little book. It was just
I did have that. I actually bought it used from a library sale.
Yeah, I think I bought it for 25 cents at a yard sale when I was like 12.
Wow. All my books are in storage, but I had like Rob was saying, the Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise, and I had the tech manuals, and I had the encyclopedia. My favorite one was the timeline, because it kind of helps you keep straight the order of events and so on and so forth. But Harrison, sorry.
Yeah, funny because this piece of the artwork's the special edition, as I like to call it. because I've gone in there and actually changed Tim's hair digitally. With I've got like cropped out some hair.
Are you serious? You did that digitally?
Yeah, I took a picture of the hair and then I like cut it out and put it over the existing hair.
I had no idea. You can't tell. You can't tell that
was a particularly good job, that one.
You can't tell that's a Jabba the Hutt job.
Yeah, no, that's a special edition there.
That's sweet.
But yeah, it's funny because Mike usually says, Mike usually likes the artwork, and then I sent him these ones with Tim, and he's like, I don't think the hair's quite right. I'm like, well, the only other hair I've got is this really exaggerated bed hair.
And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, that's Tim.
And then he went and got a haircut and got rid of the bed hair.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, that's funny. Thanks for sharing that.
But anyway, the actual title of this image, because sometimes when I send the images, I put a little joke in the title. This one is Startrek 3: The Search for Block.
Right.
Special edition in this case.
That's 100% what the file name was, yes.
But that actually does tie into what I'm showing.
Okay.
I'm showing this.
Star Trek. Oh, Mad Magazine.
It's a collection of all their, send-ups of the original series films, plus a new piece of next generation. So that would
put it back in 94.
Yeah. Actually, the last piece of copyright here is 1993. So 93, 94 is what that era is.
That's cool. I had some of those old Mad magazines, but none of them survived.
Yeah, this is my favorite of them all because it's just a Star Trek collection. And I think this is one of their better pieces of writing. There's a lot of good wordplay in this. One of my favorite ones is when Picard's asking Riker, all right, what's our mission? And Riker says, to boldly go where no man has gone before, but it's boldly with an A. And Picard is like, no, you idiot. It's to boldly go where no man has gone before. And Picard's saying it boldly with an O.
That's very Mad Magazine. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But how it ties into the file name is this? No, that's not Afrikaans. So let me go back a bit more. Is this splash here for? I don't know how well you'll be able to read it.
Search for plot.
The search for plot, and then you've got the search for sock, the search for rock, the search for lock, the search for rock. The search for wok, the search for smock to cover the search for jock, the search for schlock. So this, formative childhood memories is looking at this and thinking that that's one of the funniest things ever. So whenever the topic of conversation comes up of Star Trek 3, or anytime there's a Star Trek thing, I have to try and make a joke about that, hence Star Trek 3, The Search for Block. I can't resist trying to do one of those whenever Star Trek comes up.
That is funny.
In that very brief statement, Harrison, I now have a whole bunch of grab a stack of rock jokes to come up with in the future.
Rob's very first time on the new show, he grabbed a rack of socks. He literally had a rack of socks waiting to do the pun. Oh, man.
I am happy to supply fuel for that fire.
Thank you very much.
Truly a bunch of kindred spirits here, because I'm like king of the puns, king of the dad jokes.
All right, I'm gonna rip through the stuff that I have left because I realize there's not that much stuff left. But this is a good movie.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, wait, that's Trekkies too, isn't it? No, that's Trekkies, the original.
Trekkies.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, that was horrible.
What? You didn't like
it?
That
was horrible.
How did you not
like
like
this?
The
only thing good about it was Denise Crosby was in it. That's about the only good thing about it.
I'm flabbergasted. I love the guy who has the Captain Pike wheelchair and he's like wheeling down the street in his Captain Pike wheelchair. Okay. Rob, you have to explain to me why.
Okay, explain why.
Yeah.
The people that they chose to interview, in particular, I can't remember his name, but he was so annoying.
The guy who wrote his own Star Trek movies and
something like that. I can't remember, but I was ready. I almost walked out of the theater. I was that pissed off at the at this guy. That and the woman that tried to wear her uniform in court.
That made headlines.
It did. It's an interesting take on that rule, but it's not. it was not my favorite movie. We'll just say that much.
Okay. Well, anyway, that was Trekkies.
Well, it's interesting because I thought more Star Trek fans would have that reaction to that movie because it does kind of make fun of Star Trek fans in a way. And yeah, they do single out some, but I don't know. I just thought it was all good fun. I didn't really take it too seriously myself.
You just reminded me of something. Do you remember back in '93-ish when they had the Star Trek stickers and Hostess potato chips, the little single pack? Okay, so I had like a full set of those, and my sister was trying to decide where she wanted to go to post-secondary education, and she was really scared of university. So when she was on her March break, I invited her to come to class with me and see what university was like. So, she attended my history class and she was freaked out. She's like, how do you know what to write down? The guy just talks. He doesn't write anything on the board. He just talks. But anyway, another thing she was worried about was being surrounded by geeks. She's like, if I go to university, there's going to be nothing there but Star Trek geeks. And I'm like, no, it's not like that. You won't see any Star Trek geeks. We turn the corner and there's some Star Trek geek with his hand fist deep in a bag of Hostess chips trying to get out that sticker. And my sister turns and looks at me and she's like, like, okay, fine.
Spoiler alert, it was Mike.
But we both ordered this from the Canadian Home Shopping Network. Rob, we talked about this. Yours had the soundboard.
Yeah.
We got the cheaper version without. And as a kind of a sentimental thing, I remember that she had a math exam and math wasn't her strongest suit. And she wore her Star Trek communicator pin to school that day. I wore mine to school that day. And I said, if you need me, you just tap me. And it kind of gave her the confidence boost, just that little symbol, that I had her back, that kind of thing. Just kind of gave her that confidence that she needed to get to that exam and power through. So that's cool, kind of a sentimental memory there.
You could buy one of those now that are a Bluetooth dongle.
You can actually
hook it up to your phone and actually use it.
Cheat on the exam.
Sure. Although, the audio comes out throughout the whole thing, so the teacher's going to hear it too.
I might as well just go through the rest of my stuff, and then we'll go around and finish at Harrison. But I've got my comic books, what's left. And I'm not sure exactly
I had so many comics.
I'm not sure exactly what these are. I wrote on the back that it's Hero Premiere Edition 1 and 1A, 2 different covers. And I think if I remember correctly, this was sort of like a TV guide-esque look at the pilot episode of Deep Space Nine, if I remember. I don't want to open them up. Looks like I sealed them pretty good with Scotch tape. And who was I talking about this with? Was it you, Tim?
Yeah, I had that one. The one that written by Walter.
Yeah,
I had most of that DC series up to a certain point. I had a couple of the Marvel ones, and I even had 3 of the Gold Key ones, and those are gone. So
this was $5, signed by Walter.
Yeah,
and here's the kick. Here's the kicker. To Richard, to friendship, Walter Koenig. What kind of friend sells the comic book for $2.50? Because that's he probably only got $1 for it, really. But there you go, to friendship, Walter, and he signed it right on Lieutenant Savic's face. Then we have you mentioned Gold Key. This is one of my favorite covers. Very memorable.
That's trippy.
Yeah.
20 cents.
20 cents. Yeah, I paid $6 for it. And I have this one here as well. Cannibal Plants, why not?
Nice.
Day of the Triffids. And this one seems to have some kind of like werewolf type creature.
I had the one that had, I think his name was Professor Whipple on it. Like there was he caused trouble everywhere. And then there was one that had Spock, and it was like a barbarian planet or something. I remember my dad brought that home from an antique store a long time ago, and I should have just kept it right, not touched it. But
I remember the barbarian planet one. I had that one, but it doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. So onto my comic books here, my Deep Space Nines. I have 4 copies of issue number 1 of Deep Space Nine. This one here is the I'm not sure which is the prime cover or not, but that's the photographic cover. Then we have the artwork cover. Then we have the free poster inside version. And then I have a autographed one.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we continue on with issue number 2. I have Star Trek 2 copies, one still sealed, one with the collector's card removed, because I also collected Star Trek cards and I wanted the card in my card collection, but I also wanted a sealed comic, so I had to buy 2. Then we have...
That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get you. In all my Star Trek cards they're in my storage locker, but I have a ton, and I have a ton of chase cards, like, the gold and the platinum cards. There's DC issue number 1 of TNG. This is not the first TNG comic. I believe Marvel had them first, and there's like first season Marvel comics. And then finally, the last of my surviving Star Trek comics, the adaptation of First Contact. I know I had more. I must have sold them. I don't know where they are. I don't remember selling them, but I must have. Anyway, that's it for me for Star Trek. I think we can easily do another episode of Star Trek after I get some stuff out of the storage locker, but that is it for me on this day. So we'll go around one more time to Kevin.
Okay, well, wasn't expecting everyone to bring up Star Trek books. I because that's actually what I grabbed. Because I've been on a Star Trek book kick. I used to read them a lot when I was a kid, and I've gotten away from it for the past 30 or so years. But I have to actually commend Mike for turning me on to this book, because I had always ignored the movie tie-in books. I just always thought that they were just watch the movie. That's the medium that piece of art was designed for. I don't want to watch another or read about thing. But you had mentioned that Gene Roddenberry did the novelization for Star Trek the Motion Picture, and that he actually goes into the character of Kirk a little more. And it's actually, the screenplay is kind of the way that Gene Roddenberry had wanted it to be, instead of being rushed out to theaters like the final product was. And a lot of stuff that's in the movie that doesn't make too much sense makes a lot more sense in this. Like, for instance, the relationship between Decker and Ilea is a little more fleshed out. So it kind of makes, spoiler alert for the motion picture, it kind of makes more sense why he decided to give himself up for V'ger. So there's a lot of stuff in here that kind of makes more sense, and it's really excellent. And you could tell that Gene Roddenberry was aging, because he kind of puts a lot of himself into that Kirk character, which Kirk really, or Shatner really rejected. He did not want that stuff in the movie, because he did not want to be seen as an old man. He wanted to be seen as a leading action star. So that's where they kind of, I won't say they butted heads, because if you watch Mind Meld on DVD, it's amazing how much Nimoy and Shatner were actually really afraid of Roddenberry. They were freely admitted, like, they would come up with an idea. They were actually talking about the motion picture, and they'd come up with an idea because they felt like everything wasn't working. And Nimoy and Shatner would like, yeah, let's do this. So they'd bring it over to Robert Wise, and Robert Wise was the director of the film, would say, that sounds great. Go tell Gene Roddenberry. So when they would go in front of Gene Roddenberry to bring the idea, it would be like a condensed version of what their big idea was, and Gene Roddenberry was just like, no, we're not doing that, kind of thing. And it's amazing. I wouldn't assume that Shatner was afraid of anyone, but apparently he was afraid of Gene Roddenberry. Gene
Roddenberry was a physically big guy too.
Yeah,
so maybe there was some physical intimidation there.
Well, that guy had to have major presence, because, like, for a writer who didn't really have that much success on television, really pushed Desilu and the network around a lot to get what he wanted, like to get keep Spock on the show and that kind of thing. So yeah, kind of had to have some chutzpah, if you will, in order to get that through. Speaking of which, if you're into the writings of Gene Roddenberry and you want to know how to write an episode of Star Trek, well, Gene Roddenberry laid it all out for you in a book here, right here.
Wow.
This is The Making of Star Trek. I mean, I'm sure Steven here did some, but that's just the main attraction right there. But yeah, he pretty much lays out everything in this book. Like there's scripts and everything on what to do, what you need to do to write a Star Trek, an episode of Star Trek. And it's really fascinating if you want to get into writing television and that. I mean, I'm sure not all of it applies to today, but I'm pretty sure a lot of it does. And just for Harrison here, because of his wisecrack about the 3D chess, there you go.
Hey, let's get a good picture of that.
There's your 3D.
There it is.
Right there.
You see that?
Right there. 3-dimensional chess. I guess that's what you gotta say it all in one big long term. Yes. You can't just shorten it to 3D.
There you go, Harrison. That's what it looks like.
Okay. So I got one slightly boring but interesting book and then a real fun book at the end. So I'll try to go quickly through this one. But I do find it interesting. This is called The Physics of Star Trek. And basically this breaks down, this is done by a physicist, Cross here, and it's got the foreword by Stephen Hawking. And basically they break down everything that's wrong with Star Trek. So if you ever want it, like it's kind of depressing in a way to read this and realize that a lot of what is in Star Trek is actually not feasible at all. But it's interesting as to what is feasible and what isn't, and how the Star Trek writers would go out of their way to kind of explain some things but not explain other things, just basically because people wouldn't ask or think of to ask. So like, for instance, like there is some diagrams in here. But for instance, like Star Trek goes out of its way to explain warp and warp drive.
Yeah.
And basically the reason why warp drive is the way it is because if we tried to use like conventional rockets to fly out into space, there's this thing called time displacement. And what would actually happen to you if you actually could manage to go the speed of light, just light speed, and go in a direction without any sort of course correction, what would happen to you is what happened to Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes. Yeah. Spoiler alert for Planet of the Apes. But you'd go out and you come right back to where you are, which would be where you started, and maybe 10 years would pass for you, and what would pass on Earth is 25,000 years. It makes no sense to me. Maybe I understood about 10% of this book. I did skip a lot of parts, especially on the holodeck. But the 10% that I grasped and understood, I really found interesting. So that's why, like in Star Trek, there's that's like the warp drive doing its thing, and that's why they warp in space to combat time displacement. So the back of the ship, those engines, you had them in the front, Harrison, but you put them at the back, and those engines actually expand space behind you and shrink it in front of you to combat all of that time displacement. So you can warp into other places in space without losing time.
Writing.
Right. Which is interesting, but they never explained, for instance, the impulse engines, where you would constantly run into that problem with impulse engines, because impulse engines don't go the speed of light. They are conventional rockets. And, you would constantly running into that time displacement thing. Not only that, the amount of fuel it would take to actually run impulse engines, even at like 1/4 impulse, which is theoretically 1/4 the speed of light, it would be like 3 times the mass of the Enterprise, the amount of energy that they would need, the amount of fuel that they would need would be like 3 times the size of the Enterprise. So it's kind of funny how like they'll go out of their way to explain warp drive, but those impulse engines you never really explain. And then there's even stuff like basically transporters. That's something that just never happened. It's just never going to happen, because there is a thing, like basically in order to take every single particle in a human being, take it all apart, turn it into computer information, it would be an incredible amount of energy to do that, and the computer cannot predict where a particle will be and where it's going. It just can't. They're too unpredictable, right? No computer's fast enough or anything like that for any of that. So this is based on a guy named Heisenberg. You might have heard of him from Breaking Bad. That's where Walter White took the name from. But yeah, he had this theory, the scientifically proven theory that you cannot tell where a particle is going to be or the direction is going to be or where it is all at the same time.
That's 100% true. Yes.
So what they did in the Next Generation, because decades of Star Trek nerds were complaining about this. What they did in the Next Generation is they came up with this thing on the transporter called the Heisenberg compensator, and this is supposed to compensate for all these things. So one of the tech guys, his name is Michael Odeka. He's like one of the guys. Him and his wife, they do all like the Star Trek things. Okuda. Okay. Of course, I wouldn't get his name right, but anyways, Okuda. Him and his wife do all these things. And somebody asked him one time, like, what the Heisenberg compensator? How does it work? And he said, very well. Nobody knows how any of this stuff works or anything like that. But anyways, interesting read, very fascinating. Maybe one day I'll read the chapter on the holodeck, but I had enough with the transporter, breaking all of that.
Yeah, you've already shattered all my dreams. We don't need to ruin the holodeck one too.
It's just that there would be a lot of complications if we wanted to explore space. There's so many.
I'm just thinking how many times our internet goes out, and I don't want to take a chance. My arm ended up coming out of,
Yeah. Well, we all know like the real story, like why they did that is because the show was low budget. They didn't really have a way to land the Enterprise on planets, so that was just an easy way to do it. But it is encouraging too, because they point out that like there for thousands upon thousands of years, people thought that man would never be able to fly, or humans will never be able to fly. But here we do it all the time, and we're zipping all over the planet. So a lot of this stuff, might not be feasible now, but it might. But the transporter thing, that's probably never going to happen.
Or as Cybok said in the apocryphal Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, they said the sound barrier would never be broken.
Yeah. The book actually has a good chunk on what's wrong with Star Trek V.
There's so much.
The biggest
you could write a book all on that itself.
Yeah.
Well, how did they get to the center of the galaxy? Why is there a planet at the center of the galaxy?
That's the biggest thing, is that
why does God need a spaceship?
There's that as well.
At Warp 9, it would take where they are. It would take, I think it said 15 years to get to the center of the galaxy, because Warp 9 is 15,000 times the speed of light, and it's just too far away.
Now, anyway. I will say this, Kevin. The novelization, speaking of novelizations of Star Trek V, attempted to patch this over by saying that off-screen, Cybok modified the engines and modified the shields of the Enterprise. Because those were those images were also given to him by God in those, the visions that he had. So off screen, the Enterprise, and then also off screen, they must have taken away all of his modifications that made the Enterprise go so fast.
Why wouldn't you just adapt that technology every, I still, that commentary on Star Trek V with William Shatner and his daughter, highly recommend it to everybody. It is a must listen, just to hear how delusional he is. Like, he just
the movie would have been so much better if he had the Rockmen at the end.
He throws shade at absolutely everybody. Everybody on the planet was responsible for that movie being terrible, except for him.
Yeah. If only he had the Rockmen, and it had to be 6 Rockmen, not 2 or 1.
Okay, my final thing, quickly now. My final thing. This is a really fun. I got so excited when I found this. I haven't read one of these in a bajillion years. But
what is that? A Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yes, Which Way book.
I've never seen that.
So these are, there were Which Way books and Choose Your Own Adventure. This was the Which Way series. This is Phaser Fight. This is a blast to read. If you go on Goodreads and read the reviews, they're pretty scathing of this. I think because they're Which Way fans and Choose Your Own Adventure fans, but as a Star Trek fan, I thought this was absolutely brilliant. So at the beginning of the book, you choose your adventure. You either follow Kirk around, Spock around, or Dr. McCoy. And there is all sorts of crazy monsters in here. These are mirror monsters.
Mirror monsters?
Well, they're clear, they're transparent, and if you try to shoot a phaser at them, it's just going to bounce right off them.
Wow.
So you don't want to run into those guys. Let's see.
Kevin, what year is that from?
That's a good question. Let's see. What's the copyright on here?
Looks kind of early 80s.
Kid, I'd been all over it.
You know, there's no 1986.
Oh wow.
Well, that's the printing of this one, anyways. There's a meteor flying at the Enterprise. So you got to make the right decision there on what to do. I went through the 3 stories. I didn't go through all the twists and turns because I'm seeing photos here that I haven't seen. This is kind of a zombie Dr. McCoy coming after you. It looks like Spock, but that's Dr. McCoy. I think they got confused and they said, "Oh no, it's supposed to be Dr. McCoy." So because he kind of looks like Spock. Anyways, he comes after you if you don't give him the right. Oh yeah. So like here's your choice. You can either McCoy. You can either pinch McCoy Ogre in the nose, or you can stamp down on his foot. Those are your 2 choices.
Oh, definitely stamp down on his foot. That
well,
seems
if you did that, let's see what would happen.
Yeah.
I pinched his nose and I got the good ending. So let's see what would happen to Mike. He stepped on his foot, and on 117. Okay, with all your strength and muster, you slam your heel into McCoy's foot. With a shriek, he jumps away from you, holding onto his aching toes. You're free, but only for an instant. With hate in his eyes, Bones opened his gaping jaws, trying to sink his sharp teeth into your neck. At your fingertips is a food tray. On it are 2 fruits from Earth, an apple and a banana. If you stuff one of them in his mouth, you might stop him from biting your throat. Which one do you grab? You grabbing the apple or the banana?
The apple.
All right, he's going for the apple. Let's see. We got to go to.
Damn it, I want an apple.
On page 29, okay, you sweep the apple off the food tray before McCoy can rip your throat out. You jam the apple into his gaping mouth. His pointed teeth snap down on the ripe fruit. He swallows half of the apple, spits out the rest. Then he comes after you. You pull away, or at least you try to, but he got you trapped in the corner of the cubicle. You close your eyes. We go to page 83. What happens to Mike? Oh,
he's dead.
I'm
Jim.
dead. I'm dead.
This is a mutiny, Captain Lozano.
I can't believe that the banana would have saved me, or maybe it wouldn't have. Who knows?
They always do the thing that you don't think would work to trick you.
But there was like an octopus. Okay, let's see if I can find the octopus quickly. It was like a half ape, half octopus monster that I ran into.
An octopus?
That sounds like something out of the Gold Key comics right there.
And I tried to run away from it, but then there was like a whole school of them. Yeah, here's the apes, octopuses. I ran into a whole bunch of them, and they killed me. I don't know why I'm flying through the air.
And on the other side, it looks like William Shatner and Ian McKellen.
Yes, it does.
That's a professor you run into, and this was cool. This was a cool ending. There was one where you can trust the professor. Like you contact the planet, and there's a professor there, and Spock's like, "Hey, I got the coordinates in where to beam down," and the professor comes over the communicator. He's like, "I actually got some better coordinates for you. Go to these coordinates." So you choose which one you go to, and if you choose the coordinates that the professor tells you to go to, that's how you end up.
Okay, let's go.
Now that
what exactly am I looking at?
So that apparently is nothing left but your hair, because the rest of you
that would have been Shatner.
A rock.
That would have been Shatner.
No, you play as you're like an ensign or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Lieutenant Durling.
Oh.
So yeah. I thought that was funny.
That's what happened to Lieutenant Durling's hair.
The wording says hair. Nothing but your hair is left, but that list was like the top of his head, and the rest of him is embedded in rock.
That's hilarious.
The 80s, man. Give kids nightmares. Why not? Awesome. Oh, here's that octopus monster. He's half.
Wow, it looks like a Muppet. It totally looks like one of those giant Muppets from the Muppet Show.
Like animal.
Yeah.
Wow.
I read this like all 3 adventures last night, or the night before, and I just had a blast with it.
I gotta say that is possibly the most bizarre Star Trek item that we've seen.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
The only thing that could top that is if Tim Derling had 2 more soundtracks on 2 more labels.
Yes and no.
Oh.
Am I on? Am I up?
Yeah, I think you're on. Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
This is a good segue because we were just talking about this thing.
There it is, The Final Frontier.
Yeah, they couldn't even come up with a decent title for the movie, right?
No, I was kind of disappointed by that title.
It's like when they have the James Bond movie License to Kill. It's like, did you really run out of ideas? That's kind of your catchphrase. I actually got this sealed.
I see that, yeah.
Nice.
That would be like a Star Wars movie called May the Force Be With You.
Exactly. We're into some repetition, kind of. So the motion picture soundtrack was on Columbia. This time around, we're still on CBS, but now we're on.
Now we're in Epic.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Somebody drew it with marker across here, presumably.
But that's just
so
the cellophane.
Scan the barcode.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this one's sealed. So now we're back on CBS. So it's a label we've had before. And finally, the last one I've got to show you is Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
This time we're back onto MCA.
Yeah.
This is actually a Canadian.
Which
tape,
one was on MCA earlier?
The Voyage Home. So there's no 2 consecutive ones on the same label. So they go CBS, Atlantic, Capital, MCA, CBS, MCA. And since then, like I think Rob said, like labels like it just went right out of my head. Crescendo, GNP Crescendo, or
and La La Land.
Varese Sarabande.
Oh yeah, Varese.
They tend to reissue the soundtracks, but I guess back then they just issued them on whatever, just the popular music labels. But the fact that they and I like the way they look on the sides, like they're just
nothing there. There's nothing there that matches at all.
There's no consistency, right? Even though and it's funny because I think all of these have some version of the main theme by Alexander Courage on them. But the titles are interesting too. I mean, like on Final Frontier, like there's an angry god, the moon's a window to heaven, let's get out of here. The
moon's a window to heaven?
Yeah, I think that's if I may.
Is that when Uhura is dancing? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the group that actually performed that song, I think that's why the soundtrack's on Epic. Is that was their label? I think that was
Living Color. Europe.
I've always wanted to play for a captive audience.
I'm trying I'm trying to find some of these titles. Of course, I can't find them now. Some of them are very, very descriptive, like Khan's Pets. Like that's just menacing.
Oh,
sound.
yes.
V'ger Flyover, leaving dry dock. Yeah, it's cool.
V'ger Flyover. What is that? A 20-minute track?
Yes. Yeah, it takes up. Yeah.
God, that took forever.
I remember. It's funny. So like I saw Wrath of Khan first. That was the first movie. And then I remember renting. You could rent videotapes that had like 3 of the original episodes on them.
Yeah.
And then I rented the motion picture because I hadn't seen it. And I'm trying to tell myself that I automatically like it because I've decided that I like Star Trek now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was years later that I don't remember much about the motion picture. I remember the bald chick. I remember Spock in the shuttlecraft or whatever, or not shuttlecraft.
He was in a spacesuit. He was in a spacesuit
for a long, long time, and it was like a boring extended episode.
Yeah.
And it was years later. It was like, yeah, that really. And then I'd read other people talking about how boring it was. I was like, yeah, that really wasn't very good, was it? And then you start reading, and you kind of find out the wheres and the whys that it might have happened. And it's funny because I watched a thing on YouTube the other day getting ready for this, and someone was talking about the Star Trek toys, and the timing was off because they'd make toys for the wrong movies.
Yeah.
And
I believe that was Retro Blasting.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. I like their Indiana Jones one too. Getting off topic, why the Indiana Jones toys were never a big toy line, even though the toys look very cool. but yeah, it's fascinating. No pun intended. But yeah, I saw these tapes on Discogs, and I said, "The heck with it! I'm just going to see if I can find them all." And I like them. I think that it's so strange to me how there's no consistency on
that is really cool
which labels are, because even the Star Wars movies, I think they were all on some sort of polygram label. If it wasn't Polydor, it was RSO, or you know what I mean. Like all of these ones are all different. I mean, I'm surprised there weren't any on Mercury or A&M, or I mean, it's strange that they're now. I think they're more. They make these cross collateralized deals or whatever, where everything's locked in, and you wouldn't have a situation like this anymore.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Tim, thanks for educating us tonight on the Star Trek cassettes. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was cool.
So, Tim, do you like the motion picture now, or are you still?
I haven't seen it. Honestly, I haven't seen that since. Boy, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw the whole thing.
I still don't like it.
Well, see, when I was a kid, I didn't care for it at all. It was the second movie I saw.
Yeah.
The first one I saw actually was Star Trek 4 on TV, and I loved it. I love Star Trek 4. It's still my favorite. I love that movie so much, and it's so much fun, right? It's just a romp.
Yeah.
And then
that's the most recent one I watched, actually, Star Trek 4.
And then so it's like I'm gonna go back to the beginning and watch them all. And that Star Trek one, I got that for Christmas one year, and I remember watching it on like Boxing Day or something like that. It just it was the extended edition on VHS, and it was just a mess. But since then, they have improved that movie. There is the Robert Wise director's cut that came out. Initially, it was just on DVD, but recently, just within the past year, it's come out on Blu-ray and in 4K.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the streaming services. I think they still do like the original version.
Paramount Plus actually does the
they have
the recent 4K restoration.
Now it doesn't fix everything. You're still staring at the Enterprise for 10 minutes. You can fast forward through it, but it does it does improve a lot of it, and it has become one of my favorite pieces of Star Trek ever. Just the older I get, the more fondness I have of and appreciation for what they were trying to do. And, even though the execution wasn't there, I recommend, I get it. If you're a kid, forget it. Don't bother. But
I'll tell you two things about it that I still don't really like. One is I think their uniforms really didn't look good in that movie. I always thought they looked like pajamas. And the other thing is the wormhole sequence. Asteroid.
Yeah, that they had to, basically, like they were told, like you got to throw some more action.
Yeah, it's got to be an action. You got to fire a torpedo and something.
It's not. It doesn't even fit the rest of the movie.
No, it doesn't at all.
It's cut short in the Robert. I find it shorter, anyways, in the Robert Wise edition. About the uniforms, though, in this wonderful book written by Gene Roddenberry, he actually goes into detail why the uniforms are the way they are.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they have like that thing that they have in the front is supposed to be, that's their universal translator. That's like all their shielding to protect them from radiation. All sorts of crazy things are built into that thing, which they never used in the movie. But
and weirdly, that's the only Star Trek where they have a wrist communicator instead of that kind.
Well, the reason why they had to change all that stuff is because they never copyrighted any of the stuff from the TV show, right? They didn't have the rights to the uniforms or all that. So if they were to come out with the movie with all the old look and everything, they would have been ripped off by everybody.
That never once occurred to me, because I always just kind of took it for granted. Well, they're movies and they're newer, but
that's why all the parodies from the 70s and that, like SNL and that, they could go full on with the look and everything, because
when Shatner, the restaurant one, like that's hilarious.
Infamous.
Kevin Nealon as Spock and
yeah.
One of my favorites, it's not Star Trek per se, but one of my favorite things to send people, if somebody asks me a question and my answer is no, I get this clip, and it's not from Star Trek, and I can't remember the name of the show, but it's Jonathan Frakes, and it's like cuts of him going, nope, It didn't
Yeah.
happen. It never happened.
What was that show that he had? He had a mystery.
It was like it was like a mysteries. So basically, in the show, they would tell you a story, and you would have to guess on whether or not the story was real. Or I think I ran this show when I worked at CKVR, and you would have to guess at the end of the show whether or not the story he told was the truth or not. So that clip would be like they clip together all of his explanations of the story that was coming up, and then at the end, like whether or not it was real, and they just super cut it together. It is hilarious.
So it's like 57 seconds of Jonathan Frakes telling you you're wrong. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no,
I like that.
didn't
I
happen.
like that.
We made it up.
Yeah.
It never happened.
Yeah. It was a fun show, but it was really it was executed very cheesy. Like it felt like those in Unsolved Mysteries when they would reenact things. It very much felt like that.
Reenactments are rarely.
Yeah.
I used to like it when the reenactment actors would get like harassed by people in the public. That guy right there. Anyway, let's move on to Lieutenant Commander Daniels and Harrison, if you have anything left as well.
All right. Well, you guys have been mentioning a couple of things that got me thinking. I used to have and I still do. Unfortunately, it's not here. It's actually at my workplace. I have a set of cards, trading cards, and I found a whole bunch here, extras that I had. Some of them like I'm a huge tech specs geek, so I really like the look of the Enterprise. It's the original. Then we've got one of my favorite class of ship other than the Enterprise is the Miranda class, which is the similar to the USS Reliant from Star Trek II. This one I found in here too, Mike. I think you'll
Devastator.
Appreciate that
G1
one.
Devastator.
I
Nice.
had a bunch of those. Oh,
And
that's like instant nostalgia right there.
A few years ago, Canada Post actually did a bunch of stamps.
John Colicos.
Yeah, I have that one, and I actually did a feature. Thank you, Gimli, for stepping on my arm. Here, let me go over here.
Back when they used to pronounce it Klingon.
Yes. The thing is that I did I used to do a feature called This Canada of Ours, and we talked about these stamps, about the Shatner and the Doohan stamps.
Yes.
As well. All right, so I've got a few more things just quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned earlier the Ertl Enterprise. This is the Star Trek 3, because you were mentioning, Tim, that they would skip a movie
I think I had that one.
release
Did
a
the
whole bunch
wings
of
get
stuff.
flimsy on that one, Rob?
Yeah.
I had
And
flimsy
then
wings.
Excelsior.
This here, and it's kind of bright, unfortunately, but this is the Excelsior from Star Trek 3. Now, what makes this interesting is it doesn't have NX2000 on it.
No, it doesn't.
It has NCC 1799. And they were, I don't know, I've never seen that number anywhere else.
Now that's the Excelsior. It's not just an Excelsior class ship.
No, it actually has USS Excelsior on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and in Star Trek 3, that was the only one that existed, right?
Yeah.
It was the transwarp drive.
Now, of course, by the
prototype.
time of TNG, the Excelsior was like a workhorse ship that was in multiple episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
But, that was a class of ship, not the ship.
Right.
All right.
Enterprise B.
Oh, look at that.
This here is, again, a die-cast bird of prey. Now, when they originally came out, it was just a monocolor. It just had this ugly green color.
That's got nice
So
paneling.
somebody said, well, it looks pretty ugly. So let's, when Star Trek 4 comes out, I think they're going to re-release this with kind of almost like a camouflage kind of look to it. I think it looks so much better than the original.
Because on screen, those ships did have more like panel shading like that.
Yeah.
It's cloaked in the sky.
It's cloaked.
Yeah, it's
over the
close.
whales.
All right. So this here, again, one of my favorite of the
Another Miranda. There it is.
This is the USS Reliant. I love this ship. I just love the way it looks. Now, apparently, from what I've read, originally, the ship was supposed to be like this.
That's right.
Normally, the nacelles are higher. Yeah.
Yes, and for some reason, when they took it out of the box and filmed it, they filmed it like this.
And I like it that way.
I actually like it like this.
Mm-hmm.
I like that engine that was kind of like hanging over the back there.
All right. This here, I love the die-cast stuff.
That's a beauty.
This is the Enterprise D with a
removable saucer section.
So there you go.
Never liked the way the hull looked without the saucer, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looked kind of weird, kind of penis shaped,
kind of snaky. I always thought like a little cobra. Little cobra, though,
yes.
Not a big one.
All right, so Galoob. Is it Galoob? I think it was Galoob.
Galoob, yep.
Did a whole bunch of figures, and then they followed them up later with the Playmates.
Yep.
And I have a bunch of these. Oh, he's still got dust on him. Yeah.
I used to have that one.
This is the Borg, and then we have Locutus. Now I also have in the box back over there an Odo. A Quark and a Lore.
Oh yeah,
which are still on card.
In my storage locker, I have the entire original bridge crew in a bridge-shaped box, and a few other figures that were more rare and were more personal to me. Like I kept Khan, I kept I think Kirk and a few other ones, but most of my Playmates are gone.
Okay, so this is a sealed Enterprise from the 2009 film.
The Hot Rod one.
Yes, the Hot Wheels version. And I thought Mike was going to show off a couple of these, but this here I found at a dollar store of all places. A reaction figure. Spock.
You know what? Where'd Picard go? I had Picard put aside somewhere, and I can't find where I put him. Oh well, I only have Picard.
Right.
That's nice.
I only have Spock. I don't have anybody else.
Now I'm wondering where I put my Picard.
All right.
Oh, there he is. He fell.
I found him. Kind of end off. Oh, okay. And to end off the evening, I used to be hugely into pin badges. So, there's Picard.
And he comes with the phaser that Rob was showing off earlier. He comes with that model of phaser.
So I used to, like I said, be into pin badges.
Me
so I ended
too.
up collecting like a whole bunch. And so there's, of course, there's the regular symbol. You guys will get a kick out of this one.
Star Trek. What does that say?
Star Trek 5.
Oh, it is. It's the Final Frontier.
I don't know where I got that one.
That's funny.
Then I've got a captain's bar that goes on the lapel of the what they're calling the Master Maroons or whatever they call them.
The red uniform.
The red uniforms.
Yeah.
Yes. I ended up getting a 25th anniversary pin. I was actually at
that's nice.
The 25th anniversary celebrations at Nathan Phillips Square.
That's cool.
That's where I got this. Then there is a Romulan shuttle. And then a Borg symbol. And two more here. These are cast and crew pins. Now, I don't know if these are official or not, but this is from the 89-90 season, and this is from the 90-91 season.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Huh. And I have a bunch more, but again, they're back in the box there.
We'll have to reconvene after I've gotten some stuff out of the storage locker as well.
Right.
So we'll do that at some point. But Harrison, if you've got anything left.
Yeah, we have to do another Transformers show at some time as well.
I think we do.
Stack of bot.
We'll do one again for the cottage. I've got a lot there.
Yeah. And just because we were talking about novelizations, I have to say, I know it's the wrong franchise, but the Revenge of the Sith novelization by Matthew Stover is one of the finest pieces of Star Wars literature you'll ever read.
Ooh. I used to have it, but I got rid of it.
Um,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and lastly, just because Sir Ian McKellen was mentioned, Gandalf.
Oh,
Cool.
Okay, I see your Gandalf.
oh.
Uh-oh,
Look what you've done.
Yeah.
Look what you've done.
I see your Gandalf.
Things are now in motion that cannot be undone. Yeah, you guys want to do a Lord of the Rings one? I'm all in.
I don't have anything.
And
That's
raise
nice,
you-
Rob.
Raise you another
Wow.
Gandalf.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll see your large Gandalf and raise you a small Radagast.
Oh,
Ah,
for God's sakes. He's even
What?
got the Radagast head. Or hat, I should say.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. I'm just looking for something. Okay, there it is. Okay. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. As usual, I like to go around and just see what we're all up to. Kevin, are you going to be starting publishing on Canadian Grooves again?
I don't know.
I don't know. Not a priority.
yeah.
It's been hectic like the last few months. It's been so busy. It's finally starting to slow down. And I'm just like an open book right now. I'm open to anything and doing anything. So I haven't
maybe?
figured out.
Is that a maybe?
Maybe, I don't know. I have some other writing stuff that I've been working on and focused on right now.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll see where the future takes me. But yeah, I got nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Mr. Derling on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. What do you got coming next?
Heading for episode number 400.
Whew.
Ooh, great.
And got something planned for that. I hope it does well. I hope people enjoy it.
And you're not going to tell us anything else? No. Okay. And Mr. Daniels, what do you have coming up tonight on Visions and Sound on CKWR?
Tonight on Visions and Sound, it's the best of 2022, part number 2, where I count down the top 5. Well, in this case, it'll be the top 5 scores of the year, according to me.
Okay.
And then from there, the next week is part 3, which actually goes into the non-2022 releases that were released in 2022. So stuff like LA Confidential got a re-release and a bunch of other soundtracks in that. I'm also, and I keep teasing this, but 2023 is going to be I'm finally going to break down and do the pornographic music show.
Oh,
that will go on Eric's site. So, well, I actually years ago stumbled on a CD release of Deep Throat and Deep Throat 2.
Oh, no way.
And recently found Womb Raider. I kid you not. And,
oh my God!
And I believe it's called Man Thing.
I can imagine what the Man Thing is.
It was a very bad 70s early 80s sci-fi film, kind of bordering on porn but not quite there. Like maybe in the likes of like Flesh Gordon or something like that.
But I can't wait to hear about this. This is going to be funny stuff.
So
I
yeah,
think.
Look for it coming. Ooh, I shouldn't have said that. Look for it soon.
Rob, do you remember back in high school, we had those computers and they had the voice thing. You could make it talk.
Oh, the icons?
Yeah, and Rob Shipper and Gumby made it say, "Oh, oh, oh, I'm coming." You remember that?
I do remember that.
Anyway, that was what amused us in 1986.
Yeah.
Mr. Kopp, I know that you've announced that you're going to take a sort of a slowdown, sort of a break on the writing.
Yeah, so I'm sort of having to reprioritize with my limited time. I have quite a few creative pursuits, like the Lego art as well, and I would like to. That. Yeah, yes, there will be more Lego art coming.
Awesome. And as for me, I will be back next week with Harrison, Dr. Catherine, and
me as well.
And Rob. Okay, so next week, I don't have any Karate Kid or Cobra Kai stuff. So actually, I'm going to show off my reaction figures. And the rest of us are going to talk.
I'm going to show off things that I think Rob or Catherine might like.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So tune in next week for the debut of Dr. Catherine on Grab a Stack of Rock. And then as for tonight, we're going to end on, because it's the first. This is the first time that Kevin has been on, and I've been able to play this song for him. So, on that note, we are going to play Buried on Mars by T-Bone Erickson.
All right on.
All right.
Good old
So
T-Bone.
we'll see you all next week for the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai.
Bye,
Ciao,
guys.
everybody. Thanks
Have a
for
good
watching
time.
this extra long trek. Into
Nice
Star
talking to you.
Trek. Ciao, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nighthawks. We've been expecting you. The hour's late, but the party is just getting started. I'm Alistair Kovacs, your host for a sophisticated little soiree with jazz, stimulating conversation, beautiful ladies, more jazz. Look, it's Charlie, sincerely one of the best white non-union jazz pianists in the entire city, top 5. Charlie, play some of those notes you know I like.